Kia ora, I'm Chelsea Daniels, and this is The Front Page, a daily podcast presented by the New Zealand Herald. From geopolitical friction and climate chaos to a cost of living crisis and consequences for a haka heard around the world, 2025 has been a huge year for news. Trump's return to the White House sparked trade wars, artificial intelligence is getting, more intelligent, and we're rounding out the year with no end in sight for wars in Ukraine and Gaza. There's a lot to unpack for our final episode of the year, and who better to join me for a breakdown than two people behind the scenes of every episode you listen to or watch every day. Today on The Front Page, our producers Richard Martin and Jane Yee are here to wrap up the year that was. So Tom Phillips died after a shootout with police in September after 1,358 days in the bush with his children. It was devastating. It was a devastating end to a massive near 4-year-long saga. But thankfully, all three children were found. There's an inquiry underway at the moment. Jane, a whole lot of questions remain about how he was even able to evade police at the time with his three children for so long. What do you make of these whole events?
It was a really interesting experience for me, being relatively new to the newsroom and that breaking in the morning and us sort of going, hey, let's head down to Pio and see what's going on. It was a longer drive than we imagined. We got down there and it was just quite a weird vibe, I found. It was a lot quieter than I expected. I expected a lot of locals, a lot of police presence. There was just none of that. It was just like PGG Wrightson was shut and there was some tape across the front door and that was it. It was very, very quiet. And it seemed really in contrast to all the fervour of the coverage that was going on and had been going on, throughout this time. But it's also, a strange story because there'd be a sighting and then there'd be a story and then it would go quiet for such a long time. And I guess in the public, you just you forget about it until it's in your face again. And when you read out how many days they were in the bush, it's quite astounding.
Yeah, it's incredible. It was 4 years nearly, Richard.
Being there in the small town, you get the sense that there was just this relief that it was over. And because we went into stores to talk to people about it and no one really wanted to say anything because it's the nature of it is that there's not much else going on down there for the last 4 years. And I'm sure they were sick of, journalists and reporters and everything showing up, asking them questions about this thing. They've also for so long, it's I've got nothing else to say about it because we don't know anything. And now that the story finally came to a close, I just got the sense that there was just relief that they weren't going to be bothered anymore about this. But
also, the questions remain around if he was helped. We can only speculate until more information comes to light, which could be a really long time away, if ever. Certainly we know there are details that will be likely to be suppressed and we may never know, So it's hard to, we're going down there and applying our lens of what we read the situation to be. But really, unless those details come to light, we don't actually know.
How was it for you? Because that was your first time, Chelsea, going down there. And, this is a story that you've covered a lot closely than the two of us in the 4 years that he's been missing.
Yeah, I think after 4 years, I kind of, I would always, when there would be a sighting or something, I would do crosses with ABC Australia and other Australian outfits and UK outfits about this story because the rest of the world really could not understand how he was gone with his three kids for so long. And I remember the day actually that it came out that he was allegedly involved in an aggravated robbery. And I nearly fell off my chair because it's A, it was a new sighting of him, and B, what do you mean? An aggravated robbery, and that CCTV footage coming out as well. I also remember distinctly the moment that they were all seen by pig hunters together, and that was the first time that the mother had seen all of her three children together, and the relief versus how scared she was for their safety, but also relieved that they were still alive. that was a huge moment, I think, as well, of that story. So thankfully, they all were found by police as well in the end. Another massive story this year, a huge blow for the New Zealand police after a damning report into Jevon McSkimming, a former Deputy Police Commissioner. Allegations from a woman were seen to be ignored. The report said ambitions of a senior police officer were put above the interests of a vulnerable woman. During the course of this investigation, of course, detectives found child exploitation, material and bestiality on his work devices. How do you think police handled this, Jane? And how do you think they handled it in the aftermath as well?
Like, I can only come at it purely from like a public perception point of view, because I'm not an expert in this area. The distrust that something like this puts in the police, I think, can't be overstated. Like, it is a huge blow, as you say. It's difficult to know how you PR something. I did notice a lot of the rhetoric was around, you know, let this not detract from the 15,000 men and women who are hard at work every day. And yes, while that is true, I think you also have to very much face head on the fact that, you know, this was a shocking event. It was a scandal. It wasn't handled well. And I'm kind of curious to see if there's going to be some more threads that come out of this. It feels inevitable that there will be.
Yeah, I mean, because this hasn't happened, you know, this isn't the first time something like this has happened with the police, hey, Richard?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, totally. And it's like, it is interesting to see how they spin it each time, because I think that, like, if you watch the press conferences and everything that they've been doing about it, they, you know, you could say that they've actually done a pretty good job of being like, yeah, this was messed up, and you know, that we've dealt with it. We got rid of him. We've done all this stuff, but then more and more that comes out about the reports about how, you know, the complainant was prosecuted for harassment and all these things, and that it's like, yeah, it's seeing the inner workings that it's like, oh, this wasn't handled very well, and it's just, there's always a thing about like the fact that this guy felt comfortable enough to access this sort of material on his work computer.
Must have felt like quite invincible, hey?
Totally. And it just shows, and like this happens every time, like so often when like, you know, a powerful man like this is found to be doing something, that like it speaks to a culture of like, how did you think this was okay? How did you get away with this? What does it say about the wider culture that you weren't worried about this?
What's just truly out the gate for me is the idea that, you know, very, very shocking, you know, the kind of stuff that he had on his computer. I don't know if it was on the cloud, wherever, that he had been accessing through work. Wild to think that that investigation that really nearly didn't happen, the internal investigation, if that hadn't happened, none of that would have come out either. So, you know, there's various layers and levels here. And it's kind of not good for anyone. It's just not.
Well, another massive scandal this year. Green Party MP and New Zealand's first non-binary MP, Benjamin Doyle, came into controversy this year when their private Instagram account @BibleBeltBussy was exposed, featuring the phrase Bussy Galore, captioning a slideshow that included a photo of their child. Now, this blew up online. Winston Peters called them out on it online. It triggered hate, including death threats towards their family, their child, and they resigned in September. First off, I mean, what do you make of this? And did you know the term bussy before any of this came out? Because I did not.
I had heard the term. But yeah, it is, there's one side of this that it's just this very strange world that we live in, that you're hearing like Winston Peters demanding explanations for what bussy is and things like that. And so Benjamin Doyle having to come out and do these press conferences explaining that Bussy Galore is a play on the Pussy Galore, the Bond girl, and that's sort of an alter ego that they had, and all these things that it's like, it does sound ridiculous, and I don't. It
sounds ridiculous in retrospect, eh?
Yeah, and it felt ridiculous at the time, but I don't think that Benjamin Doyle is any kind of pervert or anything like that.
There's certainly no evidence to that effect.
Exactly.
Like, truthfully, it shows to me just a generation divide. Yeah. Winston Peters trying to figure out the internet and like getting it wrong, but there being quite full-on consequences for an individual.
Totally. But then at the same time, there is the thing of like, when you're a politician, when you're entering the public eye, you do have to like go through your social media. Like that's just a fact of the day and age we live in, that you have to go through your social media with a pretty fine-tooth comb.
But there's also, I think about like my kids and the way that they talk, and perhaps some of the young people in the office here, and think, none of us could be politicians if this is the standard by which we have to live, because the amount of just stuff you say that is just in the modern day vernacular that, out of context. I'm not defending anything that is legitimately offensive, but, there's also this argument around Benjamin Doyle being part of a certain community where the language is used in a different way. It's an internal kind of understanding between people that, like, those outside of that community, particularly someone like Winston Peters, is just not going to get.
Well, a big one in New Zealand politics this year. Let's talk about the Treaty Principles Bill. Obviously, the haka heard around the world late last year. And then this year, several MPs, Rawiri Waititi, Debbie Ngaruapaka, were suspended for 21 days each. Maipi Clark, 7 days. Previously, the longest suspension for an MP had been 3 days, and that was given to former Prime Minister Robert Muldoon for criticising the Speaker. That was back in the 80s. Do you think that 21 days was far too harsh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're all in agreement.
I think we are, yeah.
I just don't see how you can objectively say something 7 times, there's a lot of history and
7 times the previous record.
It seems a lot. And that the previous record was so long ago as well. Like, has really no one done anything bad in Parliament that is kind of, deserving of a suspension for sitting,
Do you reckon the worldwide press of the haka heard around the world prompted such a severe warning or severe suspension?
Yeah, I mean, it did. But it's interesting though, because like so much of the response to, I guess, my social media algorithms are different from other people's, but like the things I was saying were all like, oh my God, this is so cool that, native New Zealanders are like willing to stand up for this. But, I'm sure there were people arguing the other side, but I think that there were a lot of eyes on that and what was the response to it going to be. I think 21 days isn't, so the fact that it's 7 times the previous record is insane, but there's a lot of that sort of parliamentary stuff, like, because occasionally, in the newsroom, we will just have Parliament TV on in the background sometimes, and you watch it, and you actually sit down and watch it, and there's a lot of like of old-fashioned.
It's quite weird, eh?
And like the way that the amount of power that the Speaker holds, and like things like just insulting the Speaker can get you kicked out for 3 days in the 80s, is like, there's a lot of this stuff that, again, you've said that we couldn't be politicians, but like, I don't think I'd want to be, to be honest.
No, it sounds pretty full on. I think, when we went to the Privileges Committee and came, there's an argument, should the Privileges Committee be independent rather than parliamentary driven? It feels to me, back to your question about, the global attention that was on this, again, hard to say as a fact, but the sense to me is that like it was highly embarrassing,
Yeah.
It was highly embarrassing for the Speaker, making a mockery of the parliamentary process and so on, and therefore this was the appropriate punishment. I tend to disagree. But the other interesting thing was there was also a lot of chat around, they could have had a shorter suspension had they apologised. And apparently that was just never, they were never asked to apologise. Yeah. It was never suggested in the Privileges Committee report that they should apologise. So again, you've got to kind of weed away at all the details and just see exactly what it is that's going on. And yeah.
This year, obviously, we saw US President Donald Trump push aggressive tariffs, sparking trade wars and an America First mindset. All the while, he ordered slashes to federal spending through Doge, which is something that I just wanted to say.
It's so weird to think. It seems so long ago now. Yeah.
He also exited the Paris Agreement, wanted to take over Greenland, and backed his health secretary when he linked paracetamol use in pregnancy to autism.
Yeah,
That's all in one
Don't
year.
forget the ballroom. Don't forget the ballroom.
And the ballroom, of course, as well. So, first off, these tariffs obviously sent the world into a tailspin. You know, leaders of every nation in the world wanting to speak to Donald Trump about this. What do you think that says about how the US's influence is still quite big?
Yeah, it is this annoying thing. Like, you hear the way that other countries talk about Donald Trump, and it is like there's fear in it. You know, like there was the thing just this week on that the FIFA at the draw, they like made up a new prize to be like, and you get this. That it's like everyone just wants to keep him happy because the US at the moment just feels so volatile, and that's the thing of the tariffs, that like it was affected by like personal grudges between Donald Trump and the world leader of a certain country, that they would say, oh, well, we're going to do reciprocal tariffs or something like that. And he's like, well, then I'm going to increase yours.
It's
It
like
was
kids,
insane there for
it's
a
like
while.
kids playing a board game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they're making up the rules as they go along. It's a wild world that we live in at the moment.
Yeah.
But I think you're bang on. People don't necessarily respect him, but they fear him because he does have power. And I think Donald Trump is far more clever than people give him credit for. I think he knows what he's doing in a lot of ways. He comes across as, you know, as a
That he doesn't always know
that
what
he
he's doing.
doesn't always 100% know what he's doing. And, you know, and I think there is an argument, there are people talking about perhaps he's in cognitive decline. I think both things can be true. I think he can be very powerful and kind of know how to work people, know how to divert the conversation and all of those things for a specific purpose, not just because he's an idiot, but because he knows what he's doing. But I think he can be a bit of an idiot.
Well, the thing about him is, and that he knows how to work a crowd. If you've ever actually sat down and watched one of his rallies, like, because the thing is that you see all these clips out of context, and it's like, oh my God, he said the craziest thing, and you know, a lot of it is insane, but he has this ability to tap into like exactly what a crowd wants to hear.
Yes.
That like, and you know, for the editing purposes and things like that, I've sat down and watched like a 40-minute, hour-long rally of his, and the way that he plays off a crowd, I would say more so in 2016 and 2020. I think he has lost a bit of his speed, and which, you know, whether or not it's cognitive decline, it comes with aging, and also the stress of being president, I'm sure.
And also not having to go on an election trail again, really.
Yeah, right. Like, do as much as you can, be as out there as you like, because this is your last,
this is the
your
last shot.
rodeo.
Yeah.
Well, because we started off with the inauguration this year, which seems so long ago, but all of the tech bros in the front row, those images of all of them. I mean, do you reckon that they've all stuck around?
Well, obviously the famous one is Elon Musk.
Not stuck around.
It's crazy to think that in 2025, there was a period of about 6 months where I heard the name Elon Musk every day. And it was like, oh yeah, he's doing some other thing. You have to email Elon Musk 5 things you've done that week. That, like, it's crazy that all this stuff was this year. But then,
What was that? Email him 5 things you've done this week.
Because he was in charge of the chopping.
That you had to had to send through what were 5 things you did in the last week. To prove that you're productive. Nothing promotes productivity by like adding a useless bit of admin to your week. But yeah, there was like all these things, and then like the Doge contract, because of things about like, because he was an elected official, there was like all these different things about that the contract was only going to be for a certain amount of time, and then when it finished, it seemed like they didn't end on the best of terms, because it ended with Elon Musk just tweeting, Trump is in the Epstein files, that's why they won't be released. Have fun with that.
That's right.
And then I think that was later deleted. But
the damage was done.
The damage was done, and obviously that's been another one of the big stories of the year.
Now, a standout TV show this year was a 4-part series. It was on Netflix. It was a drama. It was called Adolescence. Not only for its performances and how each episode was actually filmed in a single take, which is extraordinary if you've watched it. I just couldn't believe that was a thing. But also for the conversations around, its release, social media role in youth radicalisation, for example, the manosphere, parental blind spots also when it comes to kids online. What did you guys make of those conversations? And Jane, this one's for you because you do have children of an age who are online.
Yeah, and it's, though that honestly could be anywhere from 2 these days.
Yeah.
Unless you're in Australia.
They can still be online.
They can still be, Okay.
No, I've got a 13 and a half year old boy, so right in that space, and I haven't watched it. And I've deliberately not watched it because I know it will really disturb and upset me. And that, I guess, maybe makes me one of those people who has blinkers on, but I don't feel like I've seen the conversation, and I don't feel like I need to watch the kind of very harrowing thing to know what it's about and to engage in the conversations around it. It's a little bit self-protection, really. As a parent, I personally try to be very engaged in what my kids are doing online. I'm not naive enough. I think there's a naivety in thinking that you know everything. You don't. Mm-hmm. And not that we're a parenting podcast, but it is that classic, like, having the conversations with your children, making it a safe space to talk about. Just keeping an eye on them and connecting with them is the best thing that you can do. I think it was a very excellent, I understand it was technically excellent. Again, I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
But a very timely release of something that was, that would have made a lot of parents sit up and take notice.
It made me very uncomfortable, and I'm not a parent at all. What about you, Richard?
I'm also not a parent, if that's what you're asking. It is interesting, like the whole manosphere thing, because I do get exposed to some of that content.
My children do too. Like, they definitely do.
Charlie Kirk was, obviously one of the big news stories this year, and he was a figure that I was very familiar with as someone who...
And you see, I didn't know who Charlie Kirk was before that day, and I was having a similar conversation with my brother as well, and he knew because his videos had come up on his algorithm.
Yeah, mine too.
Isn't that scary?
It's interesting that, like, depending on what social media I'm on, I would get fed, like, Charlie Kirk owns liberals, or liberals own Charlie Kirk. Yeah. That, like, if I'm on, my TikTok algorithm tends to be, I guess, more left wing, and so it would be stuff where your Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson, Charlie Kirk are caught out in something. Whereas if I go on Twitter, it's like entirely look at facts don't care about your feelings, and all the times that they've won an argument,
and sometimes the same clip.
Yeah, exactly. Just depending on who's posting it. Yeah, like, sometimes you see, I've seen clips out of context from one of these Jubilee debate videos or something like that, and then I'm like, who do they think looks stupid in this? Yeah, and then you have to go on the person's account and be like, oh, okay, right.
Yeah. If there's one thing that is likely to end up on a lot of 2025 lists this year, I think it's going to be this cute, ugly monster plushie, Labubu. I'm not sure if you've heard of them. They were everywhere, and I think it brings up a few good insights into, like, society, celebrity endorsements, consumerism, and that kind of psychology, like, I need this because I can't get it kind of thing. What do you think of them?
I think they're quite cute.
Cute ugly.
Cute ugly, but I feel like cute ugly's been a thing forever, in pop culture. But I personally don't have a Labubu. The dairy near my house sounds like Labubu-esque type candy type,
I've been to the dairy, and they do.
They do. And I don't actually know what it is, but they're sat there right by the counter. you know, these dolls, what do you call them? Are they dolls? They were around.
Plushies.
They're plushies. So like they would have been sitting in Pop Stop or whatever selling just for a regular price until, who was it? Was it Rihanna? Someone.
It was Rihanna, but it was also Jennie from Blackpink,
Yeah,
I think,
right,
as
you know.
well. And a couple of other celebrities also had them on their bags or
they're
something.
the bag tag.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it just started a whole thing, didn't it? I mean, it feels like if you're a manufacturer of something, it just is like gambling.
Yeah.
Like, here's hoping.
And also, everyone's struggling with the cost of living and having a really rough 2025. And, you know, if you can get some enjoyment out of this little furry monster that cost you, I can't remember what they cost, but $40 or something, and you get a lot of enjoyment out of it, then why not? But there was a lot of people criticizing people for liking Labubus as well.
Yeah, that comes. It's funny. Like basically everything I know about Labubus, I've learned from you, Chelsea, and it's been against my will. But yeah, like. I mean, anytime some dumb little thing like this comes, a fad essentially, anytime a fad comes along, there's going to be people that are like against it. But it's like, yeah, if it makes people happy for like,
it's pretty harmless, right? I think the problem really lies in when the value is so inflated that like the poor little kid who has actually been collecting them when they were just like 1995 at Pop Stop and really wanted a particular one, but now that one is worth, you know, $60,000. That becomes a bit of a problem. It doesn't help with the cost of living crisis.
My next one, just 2 words. Coldplay Kiss Cam, which is technically 2 words. Is Kiss Cam one word or?
And that's the big debate that everyone was talking about afterwards.
Everyone was wondering whether Kiss Cam was 2 words. Hyper, you know, discuss.
I mean, you know, what a great viral moment.
What an incredible moment. And then all of the videos of people reenacting it as well.
But I do like. I'm maybe I'm just a bleeding heart. I feel a bit sorry for them.
Do you have the right to anonymity when you're at a concert with your lover?
Well, I mean, you know that kiss cams exist.
Allegedly.
You know kiss cams exist. You know phones, social media exists. So, I mean, do you have the right to... Sure, we all have the right to it, but you've also got to realise, like...
whether we exercise that right.
You know, but I just think that these things are never as black and white as they seem, right? You know, you don't know actually what's going on in someone's personal life, and the repercussions on family members, other parties, you know, it's quite out of step with just someone having, an affair. That can be pretty detrimental to a family, to a relationship on the best of days, let alone having it become the biggest viral moment in the world possibly ever. Yeah. Like, that's a lot for people to deal with and possibly, you know.
Yeah, like, I mean, I wouldn't want my family finding out I like Coldplay.
Yeah, exactly right. That's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, that was it. But also the doxing online as well. I mean, immediately after that video came out, people knew where the man worked. I think his wife was actually asleep and woke up to messages because people had found them overnight. Yeah. So it's like, where does it end?
Well, it's also like, I mean, the really interesting thing about it as well is that, like, if they had done nothing, no one would know about it, right? And then it's the Streisand effect of like trying to hide something only draws attention to it. And it was like just in the last couple of months, he's like announced he's suing Coldplay or something along those lines.
Well, because Chris Martin pointed it out.
Totally, but and because there was also the thing about like, oh, is it defamation what Chris Martin said, that he's like, oh, they're either, you know, having an affair
or it's not defamation because it's
true.
It's true. We did a whole episode on it, remember?
Yeah, but yeah, and because there was all these things about like what legal repercussions are there, but then also there was like these things about like, oh, he separated from his wife, or like. But then, obviously, you know, anyone can just go online and make this up. So I've seen a bunch of different things that's like, oh, actually, they weren't together, or oh, actually, they had been together.
But that's just points, you know, like gives weight to the point that we really don't know what's going on in people's personal lives. And why do we feel like we have the right to, you know, to cast moral judgment when so many of the details are missing? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a great viral moment, you know.
Oh, I mean, hilarious.
And last one, what is your major standout of the year?
Yeah, top moments for me. I was trying to think of like if there actually are any like like fun news stories this year. I mean, the Copley Kiss Cam was one that was like
IKEA.
great.
I mean, we went in pretty hard on IKEA. Now, that's very recent,
Yeah.
like literally sort of last weekish. But I think I found it chronically hilarious that there was no traffic when it opened.
Yeah.
And I think it might have been part of the media hype
that we contributed to.
that we scared people away. We did too good of a job
More
of
IKEA
warning
for
people.
us.
More IKEA for us. But I think it's I'm kind of a fan of IKEA. I'm glad it's here. It was exciting to go and check out the store ahead of time to try and meet Paul. That sort of thing. And to me, that's kind of a little bit of a feel good story to end what has otherwise been a pretty rubbish year.
Yeah.
All things considered, I think, IKEA's my big blue saviour.
Yeah, I would say because for me, I'm a big sort of pop culture guy. That my highlights of each year are things like Oscar season and I was a big fan of Kendrick Lamar at the Super Bowl. That was back in February, and yeah, there's been some good movies this year as well. One Better After Another, Sinners, and so it's those are my highlights of the year. Personally, but yeah.
Oh, thanks so much for joining us.
No, you don't get to do that. What was your highlight of the year, Chelsea?
Obviously working with you guys. I know that you just wanted that on tape. No, I think coming to work every day and working on this podcast, I think I love what I do, and I love creating this for the audience. And a big shout out to the audience and whoever's listening, watching, reading the articles. We really, really do appreciate it.
Yeah, we do.
We'll end it on
Thank you, Chelsea,
that.
for all your hard money.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us, Chelsea.
Thanks so much for joining us. That's it for the front page for 2025. We'll be back with new episodes in mid-January. You can read more about today's stories and extensive news coverage at nzherald.co.nz. The front page is produced by Jane Yee and Richard Martin, who's also our editor. I'm Chelsea Daniels. Subscribe to the front page on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts, and tune in over the summer, where we'll be revisiting episodes from the past year.